Just a second. Let me get this set up. Oops. Okay, just a second, guys. I am checking to make sure everything is working all right. All right, Twitch is streaming. Is my chat working? Hi, Twitch. Yes, I'm alive. Everyone knows the O face is shocked on crown. What time is it? Where are we at? Oh, right now it is okay, so is the volume okay now? Tell me if the volume's okay, everybody. It should be coming through loud and clear. Toivottavasti. Why am I off center? This is weird. Now am I centered? Hi, Weldon. Is there any chance of you coming back to work with TSM? I mean, there's a chance for me to work with anybody anytime. Yeah, the volume is great and crisp. Okay. So welcome to the live showing of episode 118 of the Ask Weldon Show. And now I can finally have viewer audio asking the question, which means that if you use the Anchor app, which is this new iOS app where you can essentially call into a channel, and you call in with the app, and then you can leave a call-in question, and then I can put the call-in question into the stream, or I can put it into my podcast or whatever. So that's what I'm using now, essentially, to do the audio for the live stream and for the actual recording of the show too, which I'm going to be recording on camera. Oh, I am now blocking the chat with my like the audio is really laggy on Twitch, or the video is really laggy, or both. Is the audio like checking out? Raven, the coach certification thing is ongoing. We had 350 applicants, and we had 30 people accepted to the first cohort, which is like the free training. And once we run through all of the material and get kind of the videos and the course structure set up and the training more or less good, then we will open it up again for another cohort. And I'm still not centered, I feel like. Let me aim it to the right a little bit. No. That would be the wrong way. Let me aim it more this way. Okay, let's see if that's centered. I think Anchor literally just launched an Android app. So I think you can use it on Android now too. Pretty sure. Just search for Anchor app or Anchor Audio on Android on the Play Store. Should be there. I want it to be here. Why is it not? Please be centered. My gosh. Oh, it's a little better. You can kind of see the window over there, but that isn't the worst thing in the world. Cool. Okay. All right, so I'm going to do the show live, which means that in between questions, I'm going to talk to the chat and interact with you guys. But then when I'm filming the actual question, what I'm going to do is look into the camera here, like right here, and I'm going to play the question and film it, and then I'll stop the camera and I'll look at the stream again. Okay? So let's go ahead with the first question. And hopefully I don't blast out your ears. Hopefully I have everything set up here. Okay, welcome to the Ask Weldon Show, episode 118. This is the first show where I'm going to be able to take audio questions from you guys. If you use the app Anchor on iOS and I think Android, you can call into the show and leave a question. Make sure to put a summary of the question as the title for your call-in, so that your call-in has like the title of the call-in is a summary of your question, and then that way I can sort through and find them. And also make sure that you're willing to have your audio put on the stream, obviously, and ask your question more or less concisely, if you know what I mean. Don't kind of drone on. I need, of course, the more context the better, because then I can give you a better answer. But 5-minute questions probably aren't the best. All right, here we go with question number 1.
Hey Weldon, it's Rocky. I actually have a question on what you think of this. Lately, I've been watching myself talk a little more, mainly because I've also been trying to change the questions I ask myself. I have found like when I speak out loud or when I make myself like talk about what I'm thinking more, I'm able to notice what I'm saying more. So it makes it easier to work on it. Do you think this is more effective than just trying to think about what you're saying to yourself? Thank you.
Okay, so this is a question from Rocky. By the way, I know Rocky from a while ago. I think we first talked maybe in 2014. So thanks for the question. And so there's a couple suggestions I have about talking out loud while training. The first one is that I always say when you're doing training of your reflexes and physical training that you need a mirror. You need a model and a mirror. And the mirror is usually the VOD review. And the reason you need a mirror is so that you can see how you're playing and how you're acting and what your automatic reflexes are that you don't notice when you're actually piloting yourself. And I always say that words are a doorway to the mind, meaning that what you think kind of impacts what you say. And so in the same way that you can watch a VOD, you can also listen to yourself speaking or commenting, and you can essentially have a doorway into your mind and what you're thinking. So this is really valuable for training. There's a couple things that I do with pro teams and pro athletes that I train. One of them is that I'll sit behind them and I'll write down every single thing that they say in a game. And then we'll go through it and they can see things like, oh, I thought I was leading here when really I wasn't that decisive. Or I thought I said this on time, but really I was late. Or I didn't realize I was talking that little. Or I didn't realize I was talking that much. Or I didn't realize I was, kind of like providing lots of useless information or useful information. So there's a lot of things that you don't notice when you're kind of an autopilot in speaking mode. And the second thing that I'll do with pro athletes is we make sure always to catch the audio of the game when we are essentially doing scrims. And that way afterwards, when we're reviewing the scrim, we can also hear what people were saying to each other in terms of leadership and in terms of play calling. And the same thing when we're reviewing VODs from the LCS, we want to always make sure we do it with full like stage audio so that we can see, how the plays form out of this organic leadership within the team. Now, I have heard streamers say essentially that when they first started streaming and they started talking and narrating their play, that their performance decreased. And this goes in line with what we understand from how the brain works, that when you're trying to add in a thing where, let's say you're narrating your play audio-wise, then you're going to split focus as you're trying to learn this new skill, and your performance is actually going to drop at first, okay? But then your performance will increase again after it becomes automatic, after your narration becomes automatic. And your performance will drop again in the future if you add something to it. If you say, like, oh, I'm not narrating enough of my fears, or I'm not narrating enough of, what I'm doing, or I'm not narrating enough of what I would say if I were on a team and I were leading the team. And so then you concentrate on that and you're trying to remember to say it at the right time, and then your performance will drop because you're focusing on that, but then it'll go back up once it's automatic. And this is a really good way to figure out kind of what you're doing and what you're thinking, and the justification behind it. And also it keeps you honest. Like if you say, yeah, I shouldn't really be doing this, but I'm going to do it anyway, then usually you just think that and you don't really obey it because it's like less harsh of a criticism of yourself than if you say it out loud. But then when you literally say it out loud and then you listen to yourself say it and you realize, yeah, I shouldn't have overextended there because I even knew it was bad and I even told myself not to do it, but then I did it anyway and I got caught. You can start to notice these kind of patterns in your game in a more impactful way when you actually know that you're kind of betraying your own thought process, and you make your thought process transparent by saying it out loud. So Rocky, I firmly believe that this is a really good addition to your training. I don't think it's required by any means, so if you don't do it now and you don't really want to do it, you can cut it out. But if you plan to be on a team eventually, and if you want to do leadership and you ever want to stream, then learning to automate your speaking and your narration of what you're doing is really useful. Okay. I will take silly questions and serious questions. And did you guys hear Rocky's question when I played it through the app? Like I tried to make it show on screen or show on stream. Is my stream online anymore? Yes, I am live. Okay. All right, then I'm going to go ahead to the next question. And hopefully you guys can hear the questions as they play. Okay, I'll try to increase the volume of the question a little bit. All right, this question is from Trevor. Oh, is there a big delay? Okay, I see. I don't know how to turn on delay on YouTube, but I will definitely work on that after this stream. And I apologize for not making eye contact with you guys while I'm making eye contact with the DSLR while I'm recording. But in between, like I said, in between questions, I'll switch over and I'll visit with you guys. I am coaching G2 still, yes, but I'm an assistant coach. And when I started with them, it was always like, I believe, 12 half days a month was what we kind of agreed on. So yeah, coaching, I'm obviously doing a lot more than 12 half days a month, but it's not as if I'm in the gaming house 24/7 and with every single scrim. Unfortunately, that would be nice. It's not from WhatsApp, it's from Anchor. You can send a message on Anchor, or you can use the hashtag AskWeldon on Twitter. Those are the two ways I'm taking questions for the show. Oh, the Twitch delay is really small. It's just the YouTube delay that's really big. Okay. I'll work on trying to figure out how to cut down the YouTube delay. Do I still stand with all the info on my channel, even the old vid? I don't know what that means. But what could be a reason for slowly getting worse even when I'm grinding solo queue quite hard? So this is a question from Matt on the YouTube chat, and he says, okay, so essentially training in terms of volume is not the same as learning, right? So let's say that your training volume is going up, but your skill is going down. So that means that your training intensity is either too low or your learning is too low, which means I would cut out some of your training volume and try to get your learning online, which means that you need to do things like go into a game with a plan or goals, or you need to do more review of what you essentially played after the game, or you need to study more and get more of a model. So to ramp up your learning, you want the mirror and the model. The mirror being the VOD and the model being like something that you're trying to do. Some pro that you're trying to mimic, some move you're trying to do, some sort of champion you're trying to copy, whatever it may be. Get those two things squared away. If you seem to be decreasing in skill level as you train, and try to increase the quality of your training. It's always possible to increase the volume of your training. Okay, you can at any time just start playing more games. And when you become a pro, you're playing games all day long. But if you can increase the quality of your training and the intensity of your training, then you will make more gains in the same amount of time that you're working now. And that is a skill that is kind of more important to nail down, because then as you increase volume, you'll be leveraging more and more of that learning ability. So I would say start looking at the tools that you're using to improve, and don't just kind of mindlessly play games. Remember, practice does not make you perfect. Practice makes you permanent in terms of what you're practicing. So it just makes habits into more permanent habits. Doesn't matter. Practice doesn't care if you're doing something better or worse. It just takes what you're doing and grinds more neural chains into your brain so that whatever you're doing is more permanent. All right, let's go ahead and do the next question, and then I will jump back into the chat. Good morning to you, B. Riddler. Josephine Hansen, thank you for signing up for the eSport coaching program. We had 350 applicants. I chose 30, and we started the program. It's about 4 weeks in now, and I am still preparing the website for all of the 13 videos that we have from the last 2 years of ECN Live that I want to host up and send to you guys on email. So I didn't want to send the email that was announcing that we'd taken people when the next cohort was until I had the schedule down and the videos to give you for that. But we have a delay because we need a name for the program, we need a website for the program, and then I want to put the videos up, and then I can send you the email that kind of shares all of those resources. But rest assured that things are progressing along there. Okay, next question from Trevor. All right, the next question is from Trevor.
Hey, Weldon. I asked this on Twitter, but I figured I'd just do this anyway, just in case you didn't get it. I am a esports performance coach with a business background, and basically just self-taught over the last 8 to 10 months. And I'm looking for some more online resources, whether that be classes to take or places that I can go to self-learn without needing to go to university. If university is the only way, then that's great too, but I would love to know if you have anything that I can check out. All right, man. Thanks.
All right, Okay, so once again, that's a question on the Anchor app, which you can use anchor.fm/WeldonGreen. I'm not supported by or promoting Anchor in any way. It's just a super awesome way for you to call into the show so I can actually put your audio in the show. And the little clapping you hear, that's the questions have already gone live on my channel. And then you can kind of clap and support people. And I'm not really sure how to turn off the clapping on the replay, so sorry about that. But in response to your question, Trevor, resources and whether or not you take the college track. So personally, I believe that the college track for esport is ridiculously long. That if you do a 4-year bachelor's degree and then a 2-year master's degree, that's a 6-year window for you to try to prepare to do a performance coaching job in esport. And who even knows where esport is going to be at that point? Certainly it's going to be progressing, but there could be... Yeah, it could be a much harder industry to get into. So my firm belief is that if you want to be a coach of any sort, that you need experience first and education second, so that you know what you're educating yourself for. Because a lot of education programs at the university level are going to be decades behind the needs in esport. Because that you don't just immediately transition the needs of a professional field to a college degree. That's not really fast enough. So you should be pursuing either self-study as a coach, an experience as a coach, or a professional degree of some sort. Now, there's not really, like Red Cross lifeguarding certification is a professional kind of certification, right? There's not really a professional certification yet. I'm starting one. There are other places that are trying to train coaches. So you can kind of keep in touch with what's going on there. But in the meanwhile, self-study, I try to put all the resources that I have and that I use at mindgames.gg/tools, TOOLS, and on my mailing list. Now, I've been recently asked what are some of the journal articles and the research articles in the journals that I should keep up with to keep current on the field, and what's my favorite research, on different topics. And I am attuned to that desire, and so I'm going to be updating that page with research articles as well soon. And so right now it just has books of 3 different categories, and then on the mailing list I summarize those books, filled with kind of the information that I used when I was learning how to coach swimming better, when I was learning how to coach football, and when I was kind of increasing my capability as a coach, moving into my master's in sport science. So those are the books that I recommend now, but then the research, I'll have to update it. So if you go ahead and you get on the mailing list now, then you know that you'll kind of get any updates that I send in the future, or you can just keep checking out that page, TOOLS, and I'll try to make sure that everything that I have as far as resources gets updated on there at some point. Thanks a lot for the question. Okay. Let me go back up to the chat. What do you think of the idea of saving mental, accepting a loss during the game as to not tilt super hard because you're trying incredibly hard to win but still lose? When you are in a losing game, lol governor, you should always try to find mini games to accomplish. So you should accept the loss, sure, but you should try to find things that you can still do in the game in order to improve your skills. So for example, okay, we've got all our outer turrets down and our tier 2 turrets down, and they're like have full control of our jungle. So we're going to try to kill this one champion by, sweeping vision in this area and then engaging on them. I just want to kill this one champion. Like, that's your goal. Or I just want to get off this combo 2 times in a team fight. Or I just want to interrupt this one spell that they're going to cast that's going to be brutal to our team. So those are the kind of things that you kind of like, you set mini goals, you set mini games for yourself, and then that keeps you not only active, but it keeps you kind of, what is this extra sound that I have? Okay, there we go. It keeps you not only active, but it keeps you engaged in the game and still learning, and you still have something to strive for, which is really important. You want to find your joy even when you're losing in the game. And so you have to wire up that joy to accomplishment and to things that you're striving to master. And so scale back your expectations. So you can't win the game. Okay, so what can you accomplish? Can you accomplish leading your team for a minute? Can you accomplish saving this turret for one wave of Baron buff minions? Can you, what can you do that takes pushing your limits up from standard play? Okay, Spart Tenacious says, let me open up this a little bit bigger. I love the idea of making a living with gaming, whether it's streaming, YouTube, professional gameplay, a game-related company, and gaming esports is going to blow up more, but seems unreliable. I don't know if it will be a consistent career I could get into eventually to support a family. The answer is yes, that esports can be a consistent career. So you always have to think of what context you mean doing gaming or doing esports. So if you're thinking, oh, I want to stream, that's not necessarily gaming, that's entertainment, right? So you have to think, am I going to be able to support my family with in the entertainment industry? Meaning, am I funny enough? Am I gorgeous enough? Am I sexy enough? Am I, entertaining enough? Am I, whatever you are, like if you're in the entertainment industry, that's more important than the whole context of the entertainment, right? Gaming, okay? So then let's say if you're a musician and you say, oh, I want to be an esport, okay, well, are you a good enough musician? And if you are, then you have to aim for gaming and game sounds, and you probably have to get into electronic music and start creating your own composers and find indie games and offer to do free soundtracks for them and those kind of things. So depending on what you want to do, Spartanaceous, then the answer is yes, of course you can do it in esport and support your family. I'm supporting my family in esport through performance coaching before I was in traditional sport. Before that I was in English teaching. It just depends on what you're actually trying to accomplish. Matt asks, is coffee in the first hour of being awake time good or bad? The answer is that it is not really that good. No, it's bad. I'll just say it's bad. So in the first hour of waking up, you essentially have this inexorable, unstoppable cascade of chemicals in your body that is bringing you to wakefulness. You do not need caffeine to be like incredibly alert after 60 minutes of being awake. It will happen no matter what. Pretty much you can't do anything about it. 2 hours after being awake, that's when you can, if you like have kind of exhaustion and tiredness, that's when you can start going down in terms of your focus and your reaction speed and your concentration. So I would recommend everybody skip their morning wake up coffee, because it's not gonna add anything that you didn't otherwise have for the first 60 minutes of being awake. But after 2 hours, if you got a really bad night of sleep and you really need focus, or you're doing something intense and you're starting to feel like demotivated or whatever, then sure, yeah, drink a cup of coffee. I like to delay it from about 4 hours, but that's like dependent on my sleep, and it's kind of a personal thing. I adjust it based on the day. So for example, today I had a big cup of coffee after 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, 3.5 hours, after 3.5 hours of being awake, so that I could finish setting up all of my equipment here and do the stream. Okay, next question is from Ukir, and he says, hey, Weldon, I took some ECN seminars with your panel a few years ago. Nowadays, coaching is serious gaming from LAS. Question, what are your go-to pre-performance for athlete, either before scrims or before competition? Ooh, good question, and very complex. My go-to pre-performance is a mindfulness and reviewing the scouting report. And then I essentially do an analysis of their personal pre-performance routine, and we try to cut out all the stuff that doesn't mean anything and include all the stuff that does mean something. So whatever sort of mental psyching up, we have a little talk about, underdog mentality and moderating expectations and playing without fear. And we do a little fear setting, like what would it feel like to lose this game? Get that out of the way so that you can focus on clutch performance without sort of inhibitions of outcome getting in your way. We take caffeine, 45 minutes before the match, so that it's at peak plasma level in the blood. And that's about it. Mr. Tristan Guy, the coaching program has started. We accepted 30 applicants. We had 350 total, and the next cohort is going to be opened after we kind of get this one rolling and we get the website up, and I send out the email, with the backlog of videos and stuff like that. Okay, I'm going to dive into the next question. I've got Collins on the show here. Okay, so these are questions that I haven't heard before. Let's see. Oh, I muted the channel. I'm sorry. All right, let's try this again.
Hey, Weldon. I asked this question to you in a private message in Twitter. There are lull games when I start the game not tilted and ready to win, but at the middle of the game, I start tilting and then start making mistakes. How do I fix this? Thanks.
Okay, so there's a lot of games where you start the game not tilted, and then in the middle of the game you get tilted. And okay, so tilting has a couple of different meanings. So there's tilting as in you start to perform worse and you don't know why. And a lot of times this is just you're not good enough, and people overestimate their ability, or they don't pay attention to the law of averages, which is sometimes you're gonna be able to pull off the skill, and sometimes you aren't going to be able to pull off the skill, especially if it's on the limit of your ability. And then there's tilting as in, emotional regulation, where your emotions are running away with yourself, and they're to the detriment of your focus, your performance, your leadership, your commitment to the game, your commitment to learning, etc. So the standard way to overcome tilt at any point in the game, whether it's the beginning or the end, is first to be aware. Okay, mindfulness, meaning that you can kind of self-analyze your emotional state. And you can say, okay, so this is what is tilting me. This is the emotion it's going through, not the advanced emotion like rage or super frustration where you've built it up into this like castle of emotion. But what was the base? What was the base trigger? Was it fear over your own incapacity? Was it fear over looking bad in front of your teammates? Was it jealousy over an opponent or like a teammate that was kind of like carrying the game? Was it anger at yourself? Was it anger at your situation and your lack of ability to impact a team that is like losing? So look at the like very, very base kind of animalistic instinct that is powering that emotion, just so that you're aware, like dig pretty deep in your psyche there. Okay. Second is acceptance. So this is the second step of like overcoming tilt or essentially regulating your emotions. And I say regulating because you can't control your emotions. Once they happen, they're happening. Congratulations. But you can regulate them, and then you can also, through action, kind of make them less powerful and less willing to snowball in your mind. Okay, so the second step is acceptance, essentially where you say, okay, this base animalistic emotion, which is triggered in me, is just something that happens, right? Like I'm human, and I'm me, and this is a trigger or whatever, and so it's going to happen. And you have to accept both the state of the game and the state of your skill level and the state of the emotion in you, and just say, okay, these are all things, like I'm just not good enough, and I'm jealous, and I'm losing, and whatever. Okay, so once you kind of accept and swallow that pill, and you're not kind of trying to ignore reality, then the third step is commitment, which is that you want to act in accordance with a set of values or a set of principles or a set of goals versus being driven by your emotional state. Okay? So first you need to look at the kind of behaviors that are pushed from your emotions, right? So lashing out or like going silent or inting it or like not putting effort into your play because you're like, well, it's not even worth it. So why should I try really hard to not die here? Why shouldn't I just try to have more fun and all in this guy? Why should I obey my instincts of learning when to fight when we're going to lose anyway? So I'll just fight for the heck of it and die. So you pay attention to the behaviors that are driven through your emotion, and then you say, okay, what are the things that I should be doing that are in line with how I would want to play, or how I would want to be remembered after this game, or how I would want to be remembered if like at my funeral, everybody in the world who came to my funeral and who was like appreciating my death or whatever was watching just this game as an example of the kind of person that I am. Okay? What kind of things would you want to be doing in that game that represents the nature of you? Okay, so then decide what those behaviors look like. Not internally how you feel, decide what it looks like externally to people who are observing, right? Then comes the contention point. You have to do those behaviors even though you don't feel like it. Even though you know and you accept that you feel like crap, you have to then do the other behavior. And I'll give you a simple example of this. Last night, I was putting my daughter to bed. She was being very frustrating. And I was like, okay, well, this is the kind of way that I would want her to remember this night as 20 years from now, and how I would want other parents to see me as a parent. And this is what I feel like doing, which is like yelling and shouting and being like, go to bed. And so instead I had a little, frustration in a room all by myself. And then I went back, and then I just tried to, be kind and compassionate and loving. And so I even though inside I was seething, I didn't suppress those emotions. I let them run rampant, but I didn't let them control my behavior. Instead, I committed myself to actions based on what I desired to be. And that is exactly what tilt is. Tilt is when you let yourself be emotionally driven instead of values driven. And you change that through commitment to your values, which you have to have something that motivates you above and beyond kind of what your emotions want. Satiating your emotions. You have to deny yourself that satisfaction of satiating your emotions. And you have to be really self-aware and mindful of like what is driving you, so that you can then take that constant step of committing yourself to other behaviors. And that is not something that you just like flip a switch and you're done. It's something you have to have a war with yourself every second. I remember this morning I was doing some yoga and I got to this very, very painful part. And I had to have a war with myself, even though, I've overcome this barrier hundreds of times, thousands of times in my life, and even like tens of times in the morning leading up to that. I still had to wage that war every second to just like to not quit during that particular pose. And that's just the reality of progression. You're always on the limit of what you can accomplish. Okay. Hello, Twitch and YouTube and Facebook and Kat. I noticed Kat sent me a message. Hi, good to see you. All right, let me scroll up. Keep up the great work with coaching. Well, thanks, Spart. Tenacious. There was a question here. What should EU focus on after the poor Rift Rivals performance? They should focus on continuing to be EU and then obeying the global meta and work on sequential early game camp control and buff control through draft, through the winning lanes that they draft. Lemon Puppy. My performance wildly changes between every game. Short 5 to 7 minute games. In a series, I can do bad one game, then do amazing the next. Is there any way to regulate my play more? Lemon Puppy, your performance wildly changes based on your perspective. But from the exterior perspective, well, it depends on if it's a single game or an individual game or a team game. If it's an individual game, if it's a team game, it can vary even more widely because you are one. Let's say it's a 3-on-3 game. You are 1/6 of the outcome or 1/10 of the pie in a League of Legends game, right? So your performance can vary even more wildly there. But if you're talking about just your individual performance, either in a team game or the outcome of an individual sport, then it's not varying as widely as you expect. It varies widely from our perspective. But if you look at like a rating system or a ranking system, you just have to accept those variances as the typical variances of your neural capabilities, and the average of your performance is right in the middle. You don't want to have the same exact thing every single game, because how we advance as humans is through finding our limits and then pushing them. And we say, okay, this situation happens, and 50% of the time I can do a great thing, and 50% of the time I do a failed thing. That means that you're like on the limits of what you can accomplish, and you're pushing yourself. So as you progress that, you get to the point where you're saying, okay, this thing I can do 20% of the time well, and 80% of the time I fail. Okay, now you're past your limits. So then you keep progressing at that and try to turn it into an 80-20. You're never going to be at 100, but you want to make sure that you're failing your way forward and that you're improving on your performance of those kind of limit testing abilities over time. So don't worry so much about getting some sort of regular performance. Worry more about the progression that you have through those on a 2-week cycle of performance improvement, okay? Hi, Hello, Governor. Shamrock Farm says, while I watch him to fall asleep. Yeah, I have a nice kind of soothing voice, right? If we have a hard question where I would like some input, is there a Discord for such things? Reiner Gably, probably the best thing is to try to catch me in Twitter DMs when I'm like on a bus or something. So just send me a message there. I do have a Discord, but it's kind of not, I don't really go in it that much. Or you can put the question into the Anchor app that I'm taking audio from, and I can answer in a deeper context. Yawning Pickle says, I've been playing League full-time for the last 1.5 years now, and I've been improving a lot, but the last 4 months I've been hard stuck and not feel like I'm improving at all. It's frustrating. Okay, so plateau. Plateaus you have to break through by figuring out a new way to train. If you're doing the same thing over and over again, you're unlikely to break through a plateau. You either have to drastically reduce your playtime, so like take a break and come back after 2 weeks completely fresh with all your habits kind of rusty. Then you can drop your bad habits and try to focus on your good habits. Or you can drastically increase the volume of your training. You can go from like 2 games a day, like 10 games a day. Or you can completely overhaul your training regime. You have to just do something to break the mold, okay? Like take 3 weeks off and come back with a completely new plan. Or go super hard, just like take 1 week full on, like all, just like take off from work or school or whatever and just go full in on the game. Or completely overhaul your training regime and do a completely different pregame thing where you're studying and making goals, and postgame thing where you're reviewing a VOD, something to kind of help you understand what are the just standard habits that you're doing that you're just automatically just like blindly walking on through and not even thinking about. And that'll help break through plateaus. Hello, Snoy. Nice to see you off of Snapchat. Record your play and see what mistake you made 2 to 4 weeks ago. Yeah. All right, let's do the next question on Anchor.
Hey Weldon, this is Sam. Okay, just casual here. I just wanted to ask you. I have an opinion that a lot of people are actually stunting their climb in ranked in League of Legends because they have bad dual queue partners. Maybe not because they are bad performers, but maybe they just don't mesh well, or a number of other variables that can be a cause from poor performance. So I just wanted to know what's your opinion on how people should choose their dual queue partners, and when you know things are working well and when things are not working well and you should drop your dual queue partner. All right, thanks.
What a fantastic question. Okay, so I've never been asked this before, and a whole bunch of things started popping into my mind when Sam asked this question. By the way, you might recognize his voice from my podcast. He's the host. So thank you, Sam, for appearing on the show. Choosing your duo queue partner for climbing. So first of all, it could be that your duo queue partner prevents you from climbing in terms of the point system, but it doesn't prevent you from improving. So you could say like, okay, I'm playing with this duo queue partner and I'm actually getting better, even though the points aren't reflecting that. And then if you stop or you switch duo queue partners, you might skyrocket up to your the level that you're internally at. So I wouldn't worry too much about the points like wavering when you're duo queuing. I would worry more about your actual progression as a player and as a leader, okay? Because then whenever you stop duo queuing or duo queue with somebody else, that'll kind of correct to the proper value. Okay, so then the second thing is, what kind of duo queue partner should you select to learn? Well, I would say if you want to like learn strategy or something, you should select a higher ranked duo queue partner who's very good at explaining things and they can teach you the game as you play. If you want to learn how to not tilt, then you should select a duo queue partner that pushes your buttons and pushes your limits and holds you down like a training weight, and that you have to be nice to and tolerate and somehow like guide through the game, and at the same time, outperform in order to pull him up or her up so that the team wins. Or if you really want to practice escapism and you just want to have fun, you should pick somebody who you get along with really well, that provides you enjoyment and joy and entertainment. If you are so lax and you're the entertaining guy and you want somebody to keep you serious, you should pick somebody like. So you get the idea. It's all based on context and what you want. So ask yourself a couple questions. What do you want out of this game that you're about to play? Do you want to improve? Do you want to find escapism? Do you want to find joy and fun? Do you want to connect in a relationship deeper with another person? Those all have different justifications for why you're choosing the partner that you do. And that is the real answer of what should guide your selection of a duo queue partner. And I think a lot of people lie to themselves and say they want to improve when they actually want to have fun in a game. So I would say one of the best things you can do is just accept your level of performance as it is and agree with yourself that what you really want is just to enjoy the game. And then you can choose a duo queue partner that is fun to play with, and you have to work on mentally accepting the level of performance that you guys are going to put out in the game and focus on the things that are fun, no matter if you're winning or losing, and just enjoy that. Because I think too many people in esport type games like take the esport aspect a little bit too seriously, when in reality they kind of want that maybe mentally or emotionally, but they don't actually want it motivationally. Like they don't want it badly enough to sacrifice everything in their life for the purposes of on the altar of higher performance. And therefore, they're just kind of like having a pipe dream that is ruining their experience of just enjoying the game. So make sure that you audit your actual desires like quite clearly, and that when it's okay to just have fun, because that's all that you really want tonight when it's okay to really grit down and say, no, I can't do a Q with right now because I'm really focused on, studying this VOD and then implementing its play in my game. All right. You will learn new things. Okay. Hello, Twitch chat. I have to get some sleep because it's 4 a.m. here, and I just got home from a long trip where I got stuck at the airport for 6 hours. Good night. Good night, Spartanaceous. Is it just luck or do I have some skills? Man, this thing scrolls down every single time I scroll up, and there's no scroll bar, so I can't actually scroll up in the chat. That's kind of annoying. If anyone would like some advice from an ex-master player, feel free to private message me. I'll be glad to help on improve. I don't play anymore and don't follow updates. But oh yeah, ask Rinner. Yeah, if you have a high ranked account that you get to borrow and you do well in it, it's most likely because you're only 1/10 of the performance of the team. But you can learn a ton from playing at a much higher rank than you currently are. It like pushes you to be the best. What's your opinion on the Ritalin and other ADHS medics in esport? I mean, obviously it increases focus, increases performance, and increases reaction speed. You probably shouldn't take it unless you have it prescribed for a proper biological purpose. And it's actually illegal too if you don't have a prescription. Okay. Last question for the show. This is all I have. Remember to call into the show, get your question recorded for the YouTube show. You have to get on the Anchor app, anchor.fm/WeldonGreen, same as my Facebook page. And by the way, you should follow my Facebook page. And then send me a question in the app, and it will appear as a call-in on my show, and then I can do the call-in and do the answer there. It should be awesome. Okay, last question. Let's go.
Hi, Weldon. This isn't as much of a question, but more of a sudden realization I had today while doing some self-reflection. I've been struggling with some goal setting and some goals and working on things, and for a while. And then today, or a few minutes ago, actually, I had an epiphany. I was thinking about how to improve my trading in lane. And I've been trying to work on it, and I was like, shit, I'm like struggling so much with it. And then I realized that trading is a lot more complicated than it seems, and it's a lot bigger than it seems, so I shouldn't try to generalize it. Instead, I should break it down and work on a small aspect. What do you think of this? Because I actually think this is a pretty good thing, and I think it might actually help, because, eventually the bricks will add up.
All right, so Rocky's question was basically, do I ladder skills or do I practice the full in, all in, like, complete skill all at once? And the answer is you should do both. You should, as humans, we do really well by laddering our skills. So we do really well by essentially making sure that our skills are pyramidal, meaning that we practice the base one and then we practice the next level up and the next level up. It's really hard for an amateur to practice like a high-level skill without good fundamentals of the things that are required in that, because they can't actually get enough practice of the extreme, like, representation of the skill without being able to perform all of the little steps underneath. On the other hand, I know from observing AIs learning games that actually they like to practice the whole stack all at once, and they don't worry about the building up layering effect. So personally, I think that you should break down skills to the fundamentals and practice them. So for trading, for example, you want to start with positioning in the lane relative to the creep and minion wave, and you want to start with counting cooldowns. And you want to start with making sure that you're, doing trades properly. So with some champions, you want to use auto attacks for trades and spells for farming. And other champions, you want to use spells for trades and auto attacks for farming. And you want to make sure that you have all the basics covered. Then you want to work on your timing. You want to time it, in the cooldown windows. And you want to make sure that you zone them off of minions and hold your cooldowns when they've used theirs so that you can keep them away from experience gain. And if you can zone them off of certain minions, you can get trades not just in gold, but also in experience. And then you can also work on the next kind of layer of the level there. So I would say that it's really good to get that pyramid kind of stacked up. But then the second thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that at some point you kind of release yourself, and you essentially say, okay, I'm going to try to practice everything all at once. I'm going to try to practice all of the skills in a big stack, and I'm going to try to do this against an opponent who is going to push my limits in kind of like everything that I'm doing. Make sure that you learn how to put the cohesive whole all together and try to focus on more than you possibly can at one time, because that focus on more than you can at a time is what allows you to kind of push yourself past just the grind of typical drills. Like a typical drill is not going to push your limits as much as trying to combine everything and stretch your focus to the maximum and really automate some of those fundamental skills. So I think it's important to practice the whole pyramid for automation, and it's important to practice the sections of the pyramid and the basics using drills for fundamental like incremental layering of consistency. Like you want to get to 100% in the performance of that skill, then you need to replicate it over and over and over and over again. But if you want to be able to level up that skill, you need to practice everything all at once with full focus. Does that make sense? Okay, great. Okay, guys, that's it for the show today. I need to cut the stream because my kids are outside screaming that they're ready to go to the pool, and that is my cue to go and swim. So thanks a lot for the stream today, and I will catch you all on the flip side. Sorry about the swearing that Rocky did on the tape.